Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 BlackICE. Well, we've gotten France and the Allies. That's good. I did some sort of moving or setting stuff up around not running any clock time off there, and got some fighters being sent to France already. These are sort of old junky things, so they'll probably upgrade over time as we eventually start producing newer stuff, but just to sort of be ready for possible German onslaughts. And we're also naval reorganization is where they've been ships. Basically all this is going up to the home fleet, and I'm sending the long range subs, I think the number 4 of them here, out to the Pacific to help with there, and the regular range to Alexandria, so to be able to mess with the Italians. That worked. 7th Armored Division was an armored division of the British Army that saw distinguished active service during World War II, where its exploits in the Western Desert Campaign made it famous as the Desert Rats. Jolly good or no thanks? Well, of course, jolly good. Here in this desert? Yeah, it looks like it did. Come on! There we go. Let's take a quick look and see, is this the same template? Yeah, it looks like the same template. Other one. I've added anti-aircraft and some signal support to some of these divisions. Now, I don't know about you, but I would rather have, because I'm pretty sure that image that we just saw for the 7th Armored Division with the Matilda tank is a modern image, and I'm just sort of the opinion that I would rather have historical images than color images or colorized images. As maybe most of you know by now, I'm very picky about images, how they look and feel in the thing. Partially just, I guess that's my sort of thing, is that I'm a very visual person and likes to look at that, but I'm also maybe more picky because I've built so many event images that it's the thing I look at critically, is how I would be making, what I would do. Let's look at, okay, well, we don't have a lot of steel. We could be stepping up our production there at some point. But let's see about, because, well, I don't know if we're going to do synthetics. This is, they've designed this to that out. That, but I don't know how much you're, okay, great. 4th level heavy weapon, 3rd level 4th, great. I don't know how much you realize that see, that's an okay colorized image at best, in my opinion. Yeah, at best. They got some of these guys right, I think. Well, I think those are SS, and that's the right color. Gray uniform for them. Naval, that's pretty good. Those are right for the German army grays. But I'm pretty sure he should be brown. Ribbentrop could be gray. Like those guys back here, especially with that armband, I'm pretty sure those should be brown. And sometimes it just doesn't do well to colorize. black and white images. Just it's my thing. I know, especially this. So I would much rather, quite honestly, and I know that I haven't gone in and talked to the BlackICE people again. Panzeru and crew are great about their feelings, but they're obviously going with trying to continue with the general Hearts of Iron 4. Hey, these are all color images. Let's keep the color images flowing. I would much rather just have this as a really nice, crisp, sharp, black and white image, or use. I think there are a few proper, taking the time color images of that stage, and I'd rather just use that. It's something like that over this thing. Color, just fine. But I don't know if you realized how much of the world's rubber at the time came from this part of the world. A very great percentage of it came from, here, you can see here, so we have more rubber effectively than that's what's extracted there. A lot of it's in the exported, even though it just the way it sort of works, even though we're not actually exporting that much, it just because we're export focused, it's just denied to us. So we could obviously cut off exports and go, oh yeah, we only want our own stuff, and we could do that with oil, and do it across the board. Unfortunately, they're just picking one resource, like where I cut off the oil but continue to export the rubber. But a huge amount of it came from this part of the world, and when Japan secured that, it denied it to everybody else, including their own allies. Germany and Italy couldn't get at it, not because it was well, because the Netherlands couldn't import it and then re-export it to, import it from here and re-export it to Germany or anything like that. And it really messed up with the U.S. The U.S. you will find, and I remember the old R-Gang movies and some other stuff, where kids are doing scrap metal drives. And my understanding is again, I haven't looked at all the stats, there were ended up being these huge dumps of scrap metal. And the government official just didn't know what to do with it all. And now all kinds of very interesting items were scrapped. Collectible items today that were just scrapped. Now they're maybe more collectible because so many various metal items of all sorts. Where there could be, like, some people collect, I don't know, oil cans. That oil comes in, from old companies. My parents collected old cars, so sort of familiar with some of that stuff. Or just whatever else that people might have had laying about the house that was metal that would be used and might be collectible today. They just all went in these scrap drives, so much of that went away. Now, of course, because so much of that went away, it's rarer to find this stuff, so it's more valuable. But so much of that scrap was just unnecessary for the United States because they produced plenty of steel, plenty of that stuff. Now, the tin, that on tin cans, that, to melt it down, some of the and aluminum, some of the scrap metal that they got was very useful, but the great bulk of it really wasn't. But they sort of basically hid it from the people because they wanted to, people in this part of the United States wanted to feel part of the war, doing something. So this was a way for them to contribute as they saw it. So part of it is that. The other big part for the U.S., for the rationing is going on, is simply because people were making so much money, but there was nothing to buy with it. The U.S. very well may have, and a few items needed to, food items particularly, needed to ration. And my father still to this day has a taste for margarine, which is an artificial butter substitute, because he grew up during World War II as a young child, and that's what they had. And he's described how margarine used to come and you sort of have to knead it and whatever. And so butter was sort of scarce. but a lot of it really wasn't that scarce. And so, like gasoline, the U.S. had plenty of gasoline, but they rationed gasoline. Why? Because they didn't have enough tires. Rubber gets back to this, but one of the main points for rationing is to keep prices down, because a lot of people were working soldiers. They weren't paid very well, but they were being paid. But so many of the munitions and other workers were being paid very well. But instead of manufacturing a car that's going to go on the market, they're going to buy. No, they're manufacturing a tank that's going to go to a soldier. So there wasn't the consumer goods to buy it. So that's why the rationing just controlled the pricing. But the big thing was rubber. Like I say, there was enough oil and enough gasoline production in the U.S. to not need rationing. I'm not saying it wasn't useful and at times to control the market, but the main primary use for rationing was to reduce rubber consumption for tires. That's the one thing that they really, really needed in large scale to recycle is rubber. So the U.S. did know, and is okay. Synthetic Dawn, yes, they did talk about. Almost worried about. They are going to come up with rubber plants, synthetic rubber, instead of having them combined, because Germany needed both. America needed no synthetic oil at all, but they needed synthetic rubber. There was already some rubber being produced down in Brazil, and like Tanganyika had rubber, and some of these other over in Cameroon had some rubber. There were rubber, but nowhere near the scale. Yeah, 2. That's about right. Compared to, we're looking at 1,000 there. 2 maybe a bit low on some of this scale, so maybe it's 3 or 4. So it should have some rubber. And then I definitely, my research on Tanganyika and Cameroon and all those. Now I know about those because I've researched those colonies. I don't know how much there may have been in Portugal or the Congo, or Mozambique. But there were definitely rubber plants, and also over here in Liberia, they were doing some rubber. But compared to the scale, it just would be nowhere near enough to meet consumer needs. Now, the question is, do we, Britain, have the resources, both production and to produce enough rubber and research point? But rubber was critical in the war, and Japan was able to secure the great bulk of its production. Okay, the Munich conference, German demands for Sudeten region, for the Sudeten region, Czechoslovakia, where a significant number of ethnic Germans live, have come to a head. Hitler has positioned forces along the Czechoslovakian border in preparation for the attack. Talks are being held in Munich between Britain, France, Italy, Germany, in the hopes of negotiating a peaceful end to the Sudeten crisis. What will the British Czechoslovakia must be defended? Rationing. I'm just going to go down the historical path. It would be interesting at some point to see starting the game now, 38, the Munich Agreement. We're doing fairly well. That's Ribbentrop, Chamberlain. Don't know who those two guys were. That I believe that's Christian Weber. You'll recognize the name probably if you've been watching my Hearts of Iron 3 series. Talk a lot about Christian Weber, an SS officer, the head of or one of the main big shots. And I not say the head, one of the main big shots, Nazi big shots in Munich, and head of the German or the SS training writing schools. Yeah. Don't think that is Reinhard Heydrich. Don't think so. That's a policeman there. Army officer. Trying to look at. Now this has been colorized, I'm sure. don't get these. Oh, that I'm pretty sure. You have to face there. Ritter von Epp. We just been talking about Tanganyika. He's the guy in charge of the Reich Kolonialbund, the organization trying to get back the German colonies. I think that's Ritter von Epp, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that's Christian Weber, that guy with the mustache. But I think that's Ritter. See, people, I know too much about this stuff. I'm able to pick the faces out of a random photo that was, I do believe that was taken during the Munich crisis, particularly with Christian Weber in the background because he's such a big figure in Munich. And when else is well, there's Munich, but there's the gold bad whatever thing that was before the Munich crisis, but I believe it's Munich and probably arriving or something with the reviewing of the troops. Okay, the Treaty of Munich might mean peace in our time, or it may not, but it actually did. They say peace for our time, not in our time. Peace for our time, like now. Germany is hardly the country seeking to redraw the border, or hardly the only country seeking. The government of the regent Prince Paul has so far been surprisingly mum about the fate of their main armament supplier. His has made quite a few. This, I think, maybe has made quite a few people in the diplomatic service wonder if Yugoslavia knew what was going to happen, and it may have agreed to it. We should consider reminding them that any sort of agreement with Germany will be considered a hostile act if war breaks out. Okay. Dogfighting experience. Good. Okay, so that one, of course, we've bypassed, but we want multi-altitude flying. That's sort of where we're heading. Let's do steel there. So steel and aluminum from that. And let's see, factories, a couple of those. And okay, one of our ships completed, or more than one. Okay, so we got, oh, we just want one of those. Submarines, we've got one more of those to produce. Yes, want to produce a better sub-hunting frigates. There we go. That's good. And yes, part of my problem with the images is that I care so much to know who and what is. I really bugged me for years when I see a documentary. A documentary isn't a docudrama. It isn't a just a movie based on historical events like the Battle of the Bulge, the movie The Battle of the Bulge. Great movie. Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson, lots of great people. You got the guy who plays that Hauser guy, who later starred in Jaws once he was much older. He was also in James Bond, bad guy. I'm sure I'll come up with his name later. But great movie, but it's a fictionalized account of the Battle of the Bulge. I'm good with all that. But once you documentary, that's supposed to be like a history book. That's what a documentary is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a history book that is that is visual and audio. Meaning, well, I guess you can have also text on the screen. But a documentary shouldn't say untrue things like, oh, shouldn't say, well, when Germany allied with Hitler to invade France, well, that didn't happen because it's a documentary, so you can't say that. So they should be as correct as they can in their historical facts that they say, whether on text on the screen or words put out. They should also be as historically as accurate as possible in the images that they use. So when I've seen like the Battle of the Bulge footage or something like that, and then they're showing me tanks in both the markings, colors, and I just know that were used, yes, in that part of France, Belgium, but for Operation Fall Gelb, or vice versa. You know, they're using the wrong tanks, you know, because they just got film footage. And whoever is just putting German tank footage on the thing, don't tell me this is Battle of the Bulge when you're taking footage from the Battle of Kursk. Everything in a proper documentary, everything should be as true and correct as possible. And if you have to keep playing the same damn tank footage over and over, you can. But as a good documentary knows and does, you can take, like, say, a still photo like this thing and start zoomed in on a gun turret and zoom out, show the dock, you know, and everything going on around it, just on a still photo to give it motion. So, and there's plenty of stills from everywhere in World War II around. If you just wanted to go to the Imperial War Museum archives, the Bundeswehr archives, the Library of Congress, and you get plenty of stuff, and you can, you know, take stills and animate them by, you know, by zooming in or zooming out or panning across them, and doing all that kind of stuff to give them motion for a motion picture instead of stills. And they still refuse. They still do all this other bad stuff that I just hate. And yeah, most people may not know, and it may not matter, but still, they're making a quote-unquote documentary. They're documenting history, and they're lying to you through images. And that is one thing that with TRE or my other mods, I try my damnedest to give you real historical images tied to the actual events. Sometimes some things have to be sort of generic, and so I will use for like the thumbnails for these series, I'm much more flexible because this is not the series thumbnail is not a documentary image. It is just a thing to get you to click on this video that hopefully you'll be interested in watching. That's different than an event image in my documentary based events. Then of course there is also the untrue images that I use when we talk about untrue things. Like, just quick example again, we were talking about Switzerland in the previous episode here. If with TRE, if you followed the right path and then invade Switzerland, you get a Waffen-SS mountain division in Switzerland for it, for free, basically, in TRE or Hearts of Iron 3. You get this, but it's a fictitious unit because there was no German invasion of Switzerland. So there was no Swiss mountain unit. There were a bunch of Swiss volunteers, but they never formed a complete combat unit. A lot of them went into the news film, SS film crews. But there was no specific combat brigade or division or legion from Switzerland. So it's a fictitious, you know, when you're doing for the game, you're doing an alt history paths. I'm fine with that. But then with that, you still try to be, you know, you're talking about a fictitious thing that didn't happen, but you're trying to be what could have happened. So yes, you have to use other images that aren't right. But it takes to have to do an alt history element. That has to be, to me, a realistic one. For me to do on a realistic event. But that, okay, shipyard level 15. Great. Now, we've lost our naval head. We've lost our army head, but we don't have until, it looks like I've looked at this, until we can't get Alan Brooke till January 40, and Ironside's fired. So, looks like he's the only real option we have left here in this. We lost him here, so let's. That was Hatfield. Okay, Roger Blackhouse, Dudley Pond, Andrew Cunningham. Let's go with him for now because we'll gain some more naval experience just hanging out there. So that's good. We may go over to the submarine or the convoy proponent if once we get into the war. The only navy I'm really worried about in this game of getting modifiers over is Japanese. I think the Italian navy will be it is bringing some air into Malta. The only problem I foresee with Italy is land-based aircraft, whether Italian or German. But I see. Well, let's go over to most of these we're not able to do or going to do. Popped over to infrastructural ones. Had that available, but now we're going back. Okay, vehicle level is increased, and okay, now. Okay, we've got the battle cruiser. We're doing a couple of battleships. Not that. Well, let's. Make sure we have mega amounts of air defense. But now, my hope, my goal, my idea is I want to see if we can defend France successfully. Sort of kind of hope the French will be able to hold the Maginot. So the battle comes down into this part of saving the game there. Okay, so as you can see here, I've been recruiting all these guys. We now have some motorized divisions. Just like, yeah, great. Use that. That's good. To give it some color. I often like to give my black and white images some color. Just leave that. As you can see now, because we've gotten a good cushion of equipment. Maybe I should be, well, doing a couple of these African divisions, mainly to go stick them over to face off against the Japanese. Looking at that. But yeah, let's do another infantry. Or we're doing okay with me. And more naval ability. Border range. Those are all sort of math that we've got to do. We are researching. But I know this is still just 30. Yeah, still. This we'll do those in a little bit because we get more production. Okay. Yeah. I want to do those kind of things, but fighters. Well, let's do more tanks. And more motor transport, more artillery. Tank production. Artillery. Motor transport. Royal Ordnance Factory. Great day. Chinese workers and peasants. Red Army has capitulated the Chinese government. Okay, it's gone. This version. Okay, the Empire of Japan is getting really big. Italy announces claims on Yugoslavian territory. Well, Japan's doing well. Isn't good for us, of course. Now mentioning. Okay, here we are. Okay. Let's get rid of this and this. So we're increasing the size of home fleet. Carriers. Okay, so there we go. Somerville's in charge. Got 3 carriers there. That's good. Significantly increased the rearmament program. Okay. I think we're going to do a bunch of fighter types, but we can do cruiser tanks, light tanks, infantry tanks. Let's do those. Use. Good. Cruiser tank production. Let's these fighters. Let's do carrier fighters, so that because as I said before, I would much rather have carriers with only fighters than anything else, because that will allow that'll protect our rest of our Navy from enemy aircraft. That is sort of the critical thing to feed into. Okay, artillery level. Transport ship. Approved. To me, those are big things. Let's A against everything. I don't fear the German Navy. Not that I can't be stupid and put some ships out there and have them lost if I'm not doing well. The Italian Navy, if I keep it large enough, either anti-submarine patrols or keep them real fleets, you know, with battleships and carriers, keep them strong enough, I think they're gonna take care of any sea-based ships. You know, just again that air power that I'm worried about. Only comes down to Japan for fleet actions. Integrated convoy. Good. I just want ways appear vulnerable. Not really. Good. Now, Wavell, Auchinleck, Anderson. Douglas, you. Yes, I see Fighter Command. Obviously, he says RAF Coastal Command. Well, division. Yeah, I think we're going to go with that. We will have some infantry divisions able to defend here. Well, almost so. It for Experienced Army Command. Well, good. See, we get a bunch of bonuses. Okay, good. So, this infantry and right. Yeah. We're getting there. We're basically. What? Industry, great. We close. Need to start research. Could have already. Well, no. Now, new airplane research. Okay, there we go. Extra research slot. Plane research. Go the next. Go. So, bit far, like I said, could have already. Now, PSA. Birmingham Small Arms. Arms factories, that's good. Reduce a bunch of other things. Production cost. Well, if Japan stays on something of a historical path, we got time to do that. We can develop, time to develop new. And though that is a possible Mediterranean bastion. A 70K. Okay. King Zog, come on, give him the right title. King Zog submits to Italy. An ultimatum has been delivered to the Albanian government by the Italian diplomats demanding that they submit to a complete military occupation. King Zog has abdicated after realizing the ability of resistance, and Albania is now ruled in a personal union under King Victor Emmanuel III. They look to the Balkans. And since we now have worthy another factory spent on imports. Yes. And I think we're going to end the episode here. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that as well. And then as I've learned in YouTube school, gotta ask you, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And of course, please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, corrections. Love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.